We're now less than 2 hours away from the newest figures on housing prices. The S&P Case-Shiller Index is likely to show that the rebound in home prices has slowed. Our next guest says you're going to hear a lot of that in the near future. Nicolas Retsinas is the Director Emeritus of Harvard University's Joint Center for Housing Studies. He joins us from Washington. Nick, welcome back to Bloomberg. And let me get your perspective. How bleak is the housing situation right now from your view?
Pretty bleak. The numbers that came out last week illustrated in what bad shape the housing market is in. One would have thought by now we would have stabilized, but in some ways we're feeling the after effects of the tax credit program. We still haven't solved the foreclosure problem, and until we do, I think it's quite a slog and a kind of rocky road ahead.
Now, in hindsight, that homebuyer tax credit that the government did, the other government actions, have they been worth it, Nick? Have they done more harm than good, as some have argued?
Well, when they were proposed and when they were implemented, they did stop the free fall in the housing market. So that's good. It was a pretty expensive way to do it, over $12 billion. And as we learned, it was so effective that it borrowed demand from the future. And today is the future.
So now time to let market forces work again?
Well, at some point, the market has to clear. The foreclosure intervention programs haven't quite had the impact that I think the government or any of us wanted to see. And that foreclosure overhang is still dampening prices, dampening the whole sort of market overall. I think we spent a lot of time looking at the for sale market. Lest we forget, we're starting to see some stabilization in the rental market. So the market is showing some signs of stabilization, but a robust recovery is a long time away, I think.
Is there anything else Washington should be doing at this point to try and change the situation, change the equation?
Well, at this point, I don't know if it's a housing market problem anymore. It was. Today, it's a problem in the broader economy. What Washington needs to do, what I'm sure it wants to do, is get the general economy moving, create more jobs. As long as people are worried about whether they're working, whether they're going to keep their job, whether they can get a better job, they're going to be reluctant to enter the market and take on a new obligation.
There's been a lot of talk, Nick, as you know, I was at the Fannie Freddie conference at the Treasury just a few days ago about a massive refinancing fix. Have Fannie and Freddie step in here and help so many of those homeowners who right now are still having a hard time refinancing. It would be in the government's own interest to do this. What do you make of that talk and the likelihood that there could be some major wave of refinancing at the encouragement of the government?
Well, we have seen refinancing in recent months because the interest rates keep getting lower. So there is almost natural refinancing that's going on. The notion that Fannie and Freddie would be supercharged to do massive refinancing, I think runs into the face of this sort of notion is, let's be careful what we do with this housing market, particularly when it comes to Fannie and Freddie, which are on the verge of a reconstitution. So I'm a little sort of skeptical that we'll see a massive refinancing program by the government.
All right, we've got the Case-Shiller numbers out at 9 o'clock Eastern time. What should we read into this number? What should it tell us? What does it tell us, if anything, about the future?
Well, monthly and even quarterly numbers are somewhat volatile. I think we'll see, even with the reports of the decline in home sales last week, we're starting to see some stabilization in prices. I think we've addressed the problem of affordability. We've addressed the problem of low interest rates. What we have to do is get consumers confident enough in the housing market. So I think the Case-Shiller numbers will continue to show some stabilization, still some after effects from the tax credit. But again, I don't think there's going to be a rabbit in the hat.
No rabbit in the hat. A lot of people hoping for a rabbit in the hat.
Well, we always do, but generally speaking, somebody has to put the rabbit in the hat before you pull it out.
All right, we'll end on that rabbit discussion. Nick, thanks very much for joining us. Director Emeritus of Harvard University's Housing Studies Program.